So good evening all, and welcome to the Public Information and SEPA Scoping Meeting for the Heroes Tunnel Project, State Project number 167-108. My name is Tracy Bray. I am the project manager from the Connecticut Department of Transportation in the Major Structures Unit. Now, before we get into the details of the project, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items because this is a hybrid meeting. We have you folks here that kindly joined us tonight for the presentation, and we also have people that have joined via Zoom online. So I'm just going to go through a couple things. So for those of you that have joined on Zoom, you have the option of using closed captioning, and you can access that by looking for the icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen on the toolbar. There's like a little CC box. That's for captions. Click on that, and then you can select the speaking language. And you can select whatever language you would like. We'd also like to remind everyone of your civil rights. See, under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. On this slide, we have a link to our Office of Equity's webpage where you can find more information. And then we also have a link and a QR code on this slide to a voluntary post-meeting survey. We ask that you please check it out because you can rate the timing of the meeting, the information that was presented, and also accessibility. So we greatly appreciate your input because we take that and we try to improve the process in future meetings. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be available on YouTube after the meeting, and you'll be able to select closed captioning and different languages when viewing it on YouTube. So this is a little more on Title VI. The Connecticut Department of Transportation operates its programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Any person who believes she or he has been aggrieved by any unlawful discriminatory practice under Title VI may file a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. On this slide, we have additional information as to who you should contact and the process to file a complaint if you feel it's warranted. For those that would like to read this slide, which has the Title VI information in Spanish, I'm going to take a moment and pause so that you can read through. After the presentation tonight, at the end of the meeting, we'll have a question and answer session. Now, for those of you that are here at the Fire Academy with us, you're welcome to come up and line up here. We have an X to mark the spot. We'll hand you a microphone and you can ask your questions or give your comments. For those that are joining online, there are 3 ways that you can communicate with us during this meeting. One is by email. You can send us an email at heroestunnel@ct.gov. You can call us at 860-594-2020 and leave a voicemail. We'll be checking throughout the meeting. Please reference the Heroes Tunnel Project or State Project number 167-108. Lastly, you can ask questions via the Q&A feature on Zoom, which I'll describe the process in the following slide. And just a note, the comment period will extend until January 28th. So even if you think of something after this meeting, you can still reach out to us by email or phone. Unfortunately, the Zoom Q&A function will not be available, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. To use the Zoom Q&A, select the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. The Q&A window will pop open, and you can type in your question or comment in the box and then hit enter. All right, so now that we got the housekeeping stuff out of the way, we'll dive into the project. So to start off, I'd like to introduce the team from CTDOT. We have Derek Lassard, Division Chief of Bridges, Bao Chung, the Principal Engineer of the Major Structures Unit, Sushil Dahal, the Project Engineer for the project, Kevin Fleming, Transportation Supervising Planner from our Office of Environmental Planning, and also Kathleen Erickson, the Right-of-Way Project Coordinator from our Office of Rights-of-Way. And then lastly, myself, Tracy Bray, the Project Manager. CDM Smith is the primary consultant engineering firm that is performing the design on this project. And the team consists of Michael Egan, Project Manager, Mahmoud Khawaja, Design Manager and Tunnel Engineer, Carl Dusler, the Lead Traffic Engineer, Jonathan Geary, Lead Highway Engineer, Jong Supaset, Lead Electrical Engineer, and Belen Michelis, Public Involvement Lead. AECOM and ECAM are subconsultants to CDM Smith, and they're primarily assisting with the ventilation design under this project and also the tunnel inspection and testing that's been performed. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is primarily to update many of you who have been following this project over the years, to discuss the proposed project scope and the schedule, and then most importantly, to get your input and respond to any questions that you have. Many of you live near the Heroes Tunnel and or drive through the tunnel on a daily basis. So you have very valuable input to help us make this project successful. So we really would like to hear whatever you have to say. Oops. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a public information meeting and also a SEPA scoping meeting. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Fleming now from our Office of Environmental Planning, and he'll describe a little bit more as to what a SEPA scoping meeting is and what the process is.
Perfect. Yes. All right. Thanks a lot, Tracy. Hey, everybody. My name is Kevin Fleming. Thanks for joining us tonight. As Tracy mentioned, I'm a transportation planner at DOT, the Office of Environmental Planning. As she mentioned, we're here tonight for a joint public informational / SEPA scoping meeting. I'll briefly describe what SEPA is and what's meant by the term scoping under SEPA specifically. So the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA for short, provides a standardized public process for the various Connecticut state agencies to follow to review any state action that may have a significant effect on the environment, and also to evaluate alternatives to avoid or minimize any potential impacts on the environment. Now, one of the most important components of SEPA, as you'll see here, is your opportunity to review a proposed state action and give us your feedback. So your comments here tonight and throughout the entire public comment period, which expires on January 28th, very important to us and also a critical part of the overall SEPA process. So under SEPA, we have to consider both the direct and indirect impacts that a project may have on a really wide range of environmental resources, as you can see here. Although what you see here isn't necessarily an all-encompassing list, it should give you a good idea of the types of resources that we do have to consider under the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act. So you'll see everything from cultural resources, parkland impacts, and endangered species, to also ensuring our projects are in compliance with the Connecticut State Plan of Conservation and Development. Actually, for this project, because the project involves federal funding through the Federal Highway Administration, we also have to ensure compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, as well. So that's obviously just a really brief general idea of what SEPA is and what resources we do need to consider under SEPA. So I'll just describe what is meant by the term scoping. So under SEPA, scoping has a really specific definition, and the process involves a defined set of steps for public outreach. So as shown here, SEPA scoping is defined as the gathering and analysis of information that a state agency will use to establish the extent of environmental review of a proposed state action. So basically, it's just really a way for us to get information from the public and the other state agencies, so we can determine the proper level of environmental review and documentation needed for a project. And this will allow us to make informed decisions that actually consider the environment. Now, that process begins when we publish a notice of the project in what's called the Environmental Monitor, and that in turn kicks off a minimum 30-day public comment period. I'm assuming not many people are familiar with the Environmental Monitor. The Environmental Monitor is an online publication that's run by the Connecticut Council on Environmental Quality, or CEQ, and that informs the public of all state actions that have to go through the SEPA process. So essentially, it's a bit of like a SEPA clearinghouse. And for this project, we published that initial scoping notice on December 16th. And as we mentioned, the comment period will run until the close of business on Wednesday, January 28th. And as I mentioned, the idea is to solicit comments from the various state regulatory agencies, affected municipalities, and also the public to help identify any specific environmental resources or alternatives that need to be analyzed and evaluated. Obviously, as you know, often the local community has a really unique understanding of the project area, and not just an understanding of the resources in the project area, but also of any community concerns or issues that we just might not be aware of because we don't live in the area. So the information you provide certainly helps us inform our decision making. And then ultimately, this process will help us to determine if there are any significant environmental impacts associated with the project, and therefore the need to undertake an environmental impact evaluation. Now, an EIE is a detailed and comprehensive document that analyzes any significant environmental impacts and compares the impacts of any alternatives being considered for the project as well. So what you see here is just a really high-level chart of the overall SEPA process. It shows where we are currently, and those are the boxes that are outlined in red. And then it also shows what the next steps are under the SEPA process. So once we initially determined that this project was subject to a SEPA review, we published a notice in the Environmental Monitor to kick off that initial scoping phase of the project, like I mentioned. Also, just an FYI, the reason why we're going through scoping on this project mainly is because the Heroes Tunnel is eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. And since we're proposing a rehabilitation of it, we felt that would just be in good practice to go through the formal SEPA scoping process, so we have all of our bases covered. Moving forward from here, after the scoping period ends on January 28th, we'll go ahead and review all of the comments we received. We'll consider any potential environmental impacts, determine if they have the potential to be significant or not, and then based on that information, we'll determine if an EIE is required or not. Now, once that determination is made, the determination itself and the justification behind it will be published in the Environmental Monitor, along with a synopsis of the comments received and our responses to those comments. And this publication in the Environmental Monitor will inform the public we've either concluded the SEPA process or we'll be doing further analysis in the form of an EIE due to the presence of significant environmental impacts. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time, and now I'll hand the presentation back over to Tracy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So tonight's agenda includes a brief overview of the project and existing conditions, and then we'll go through the recommendations to improve some of the existing conditions, and then we'll present on the project schedule and costs and the next steps. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll go through the Q&A session. So the Heroes Tunnel project is a CTDOT initiative to improve the safety, reliability, and longevity of the Wilbur-Cross Parkway Route 15 tunnel system. At the last public information meetings that were held in 2021, we presented an option that would essentially replace the tunnels, creating 2 bigger barrels and adding a 3rd barrel. However, there are many environmental resources in the park on top of the tunnel that would be significantly impacted by drilling to widen the tunnels and add a 3rd barrel. So after the 2021 public information meetings, we went back and we looked at the rehabilitation and replacement options, again, to ensure that we were recommending an option that would address the needs of the Wilbercross Parkway tunnel system and maximize safety while also minimizing impacts to the traveling public and resources in the vicinity. So the purpose of the project is to correct existing deficiencies, including structural, highway, electrical, and mechanical elements, as well as traffic congestion, enhance safety, improve travel, and ease maintenance of the Heroes Tunnel in the future. So some of the needs, as I mentioned, the existing tunnel has extensive deterioration. There are annual inspections that are performed, and there's extensive cracking, loose or spalled concrete, and areas where the reinforcement is exposed and corroding. Also, the ventilation system is non-functional, and the electrical system needs rehabilitation to ensure that the lights remain reliable and functional. So with this deterioration, CTDOT's maintenance forces are frequently going out to the tunnel, removing concrete, patching the concrete within the tunnel, and doing other repairs. So one of the goals of the project is to try to minimize the need for future maintenance and also extend the service life of the project another 25 years at a minimum. I mean, of the tunnel, another 25 years at a minimum. Now, as I mentioned, the ventilation system is non-functional right now. So if there was an incident or a fire within the tunnel, often that can be quite deadly if there aren't the proper systems and procedures in place. Now, we've already coordinated with local first responders to develop an emergency response plan for the tunnel in its current condition. However, there are improvements that could be made to improve ventilation and also the geometry to facilitate emergency response in the future. And then we also look at the need for adding traffic capacity, or in other words, adding additional lanes. As you know, there's a lot of congestion throughout the state. So as part of this project in recent years, we did a traffic analysis to see if there is a need to add an additional lane through the tunnel. And the C.E. Smith team performed the traffic analysis considering the proposed improvements under the Exit 46 Interstate Interchange Project, State Project 92-689. And it also considered projected traffic volumes 30 years out into the future. Based on the results of that traffic analysis, it was determined that really there isn't a need to add additional lanes at this time. So considering the purpose and the project needs, the proposed scope includes a tunnel liner rehabilitation, and this is to address the cracking, the spalling, loose concrete that's found typically in the tunnel, and also to reduce the need for maintenance to go out there and do repairs frequently. In addition, we're proposing life safety and fire protection upgrades, and that will address the non-functional ventilation system and ensure that emergency responders can get there and respond in a fire or some other emergency. And then, and lastly, no full replacement is being pursued any further. So we're no longer looking at the option that added the 3rd barrel. Oops. Sorry about that. As you know, considering that there's no need for the additional traffic capacity, and that the primary focus is to increase safety and address the deterioration. Again, we're not pursuing that full replacement option. Well, the Heroes Tunnel carries Route 15 northbound and southbound under the West Rock Ridge State Park in New Haven, Woodbridge, and Camden. The West Rock Ridge State Park is an important resource in Connecticut for both recreational purposes and environmental reasons. So the potential impacts to the park were carefully evaluated and considered when evaluating tunnel rehabilitation alternatives. The recommendation proposed under this project were selected to minimize the impacts as much as possible. The limits of State Project 92-689, right here, the Exit 46 interchange project is located just south of the tunnel. And we're working very closely with the Exit 46 interchange project team to coordinate construction activities and make sure that there are no conflicts between the two projects. As it stands today, the Heroes Tunnel conveys two 11.5-foot wide travel lanes and 28-inch wide walkways in both barrels. Inspections of the tunnel are performed annually, and the Heroes Tunnel is considered to be in poor condition based on the condition of the tunnel liner. Approximately 74,000 vehicles drive through the tunnel each day, and in 2024, there were 30 accidents reported that occurred within the tunnel. Fortunately, none of them were fatal. Highway geometry improvements within the tunnel and at the Exit 46 interchange are proposed to improve safety and reduce the number of accidents. The tunnel is approximately 1,200 feet long. Now, since it's over 1,000 feet long, we need to consider ventilation needs for both congested traffic and fire emergency scenarios using the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA 502 code as a guide. Per NFPA 502, which has been adopted in the Connecticut State Fire Code for new tunnels and is being used on this project as a guide for the tunnel rehabilitation, an authority having jurisdiction, or AHJ for short, should be designated for the tunnel. For this project, the AHJ is the State Fire Marshal. The AHJ is responsible for ensuring that all design, operation, and maintenance activities for the Heroes Tunnel comply with applicable codes, standards, safety regulations, and emergency response needs. We've had several workshops over the past year with the State Fire Marshal and emergency responders in New Haven, Woodbridge, and Hamden, as well as state agencies, where they have shared their operational needs and provided feedback on the proposed fire protection and life safety improvements. We will continue to coordinate them throughout the design phase to have them review the design plans and also to develop a post-construction emergency response plan. All right, at this time, I'll turn it over to Michael Egan from CDM Smith, who will go over the proposed recommendations. Yep.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Recommendations. So what are we looking to do as far as the tunnel is concerned? Well, first off is our life safety and fire protection recommendations. These recommendations are all based on the National Fire Protection Association NFP 502 requirements for ventilation, emergency detection systems, electrical systems, traffic control, and our fire protection upgrades. The recommended improvements include incident command post staging areas at the north and south approaches to the tunnel, This allows first responders to stage and evaluate the responses to an incident within the tunnel. We'll also have new fire hydrants that will be placed at those incident command staging areas. This is going to provide water, a water source at the emergency staging areas to our first responders. We'll also be proposing a new fire detection system. What we're proposing is a fiber optic linear heat detection system that's verified by a monitored CCTV camera system that is overseen by those operating the tunnel, right? Those who are overseeing the tunnel operations. Another thing we're going to be proposing is radio frequency boosters. Those will be boosting the signals for both emergency radios and cell phones within the tunnel. So if there's an incident, you have your cell phone, you can actually call 911. Our ventilation requirements. Again, as Tracy said, presently existing ventilation no longer works within the tunnel. Well, ventilation fans will be provided for both emissions control, that's normal operation of ventilation, and the dissipation of smoke during an incident. That's for emergency operations ventilation. Emission centers will be monitoring the vehicle emissions, and the fire detection systems will monitor for fire and smoke during an incident. What we're proposing is 8 pairs of longitudinal jet fans per barrel placed above the traffic envelope. And a little later in the slides, we'll show you a cross-section what that actually looks like. Modifications are recommended to the tunnel liners so that at those support locations, we're going to be modifying the tunnels to be able to support those fans. For our traffic control recommendations, traffic control is required to improve safety and manage traffic flow during an incident. The proposed new traffic control systems include new portal traffic signals. Those will be able to close the portals during an incident. So you'll be able to shut down both portals during an incident with the portal traffic signals. We'll also be having lane control signals. Those will be able to close lanes during small or non-emergency incidents. Dynamic signs or variable message signs, VMS signs, will also be utilized. That will notify traffic in advance of incidents, maintenance, construction, inspection work, all happening within the tunnel. So you'll be able to be notified if there's an issue, if there's an incident, or if there's actually inspection or construction work going on in the tunnel. You'll be notified in advance. We'll also have upstream warning signs. So what those upstream warning signs will be indicating is that these traffic systems that I just spoke about will be in play as you approach the tunnel. So basically to pay attention to them. One of the things that we're looking at, and we actually do have a board there for those who are in the audience, is the crossovers. Again, there are existing crossovers at both the north and south approaches in the median, and they're used to divert traffic into a single barrel during inspection and maintenance operations. Now, the existing geometry of those only handles a 15-mile-an-hour design speed because they're so tight. That slows traffic during these operations or during construction when those are being utilized. The proposed will increase the opening to increase the design speeds during the operations to a 40-mile-an-hour design speed. That's going to create more efficient traffic flow, especially during construction. Again, this is going to be critical for the construction phase to have those in place, and their continued use post-construction will be evaluated once we move on in the design. For our maintenance protection of traffic during construction, construction is going to be limited to off-peak hours. All right. We're going to have 2 operational lanes during construction. They will be within one tunnel. Again, you'll have bi-directional traffic in the barrel that is not being worked on. And they will be utilizing, and we'll also utilize those improved crossovers for the higher 40-mile design speed at the approaches. As far as off-peak hours, what are the off-peak hours? We're looking at nights from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. We will note, though, as the design progresses, some daytime work may be required to complete more challenging construction tasks. Again, we're looking at that. We're monitoring the construction operations that we're proposing. But if that is the case, this will be coordinated with the municipalities that's required as we move forward. One thing we do want to stress, no proposed detours of Route 15 are proposed, okay? Though ramp detours may be required during the construction phase. Now, egress and wayfinding recommendations. Safe evacuation from the tunnel during an incident is a critical aspect of life safety and fire protection design of the tunnel. To facilitate that, an additional egress pathway at the midpoint of the tunnel is being proposed. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be converting the existing central command room to an egress cross passage and tunnel ancillary equipment room. This allows evacuees to egress from the incident barrel to the non-incident barrel. Okay, so if there's a fire, if there's incident in the one barrel, you can actually go to the other barrel without having to go out one of the portals. The tunnel will also include active emergency signage and wayfinding lighting, excuse me. All electrical systems will be protected from fire and have a 2-hour fire rating. So basically, all of our emergency systems will be fire rated so that they can function during the incident that they're there designed to protect you from. And evacuee signage will be provided throughout the tunnel. Emergency egress options. This really shows a diagram here. Again, what you can see here, this is the center point. That's where we're looking at is the egress cross passage. As you can see, we're looking at 1,200 feet of tunnel, again, northbound, southbound. So the idea is this. Presently, the only way, if there's an incident, all you can do is egress out the southern or northern portals, all right? By creating an egress passageway at the center of the tunnel to evacuate from the incident to the non-incident barrel, that will reduce the level, the length you have to go during an incident for your egress. So again, you can, if there's an incident here, you don't have to go all the way back here. Again, you don't want to go past the fire, so you can go here through the egress cross passage, you're into the non-incident barrel. And again, because of the traffic control that we're proposing, all traffic will be stopped not only in the incident barrel, but also in the non-incident barrel. Now what we're showing is the egress cross passage itself. This is a plan view of the egress cross passage. Again, this here was the existing central control room in the existing tunnel. All right. We're converting that to the egress cross passage as well as a tunnel equipment ancillary room here. We'll have dual doors here in each one of the dual doors, and these doors are fireproof doors. They will be swinging in the direction of egress. So essentially, if you're in this barrel here, you're egressing to the non-incident barrel, the doors swing this way. Same thing here. There's a gap in the barrier. You come through here. If the incident barrel is here, you're coming through here. The doors swing in the direction of the pedestrian traffic into the non-incident barrel. Right here it shows the ventilation. This is the existing, they had 4 existing ventilation shafts under the original design. You can see them here. This is a view looking here. You can see the ventilation there. So what we're going to do is this space here, we're going to be positively pressurizing that. So we're basically providing fresh air from the top of the ridge. Essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running ducts down here reusing these central shafts to provide ducts so we can provide positive pressurization, fresh air, so you're not drawing air from either one of the barrels. All right, so you're not dealing with the emissions, and you're especially not dealing with smoke during an incident. So again, now you're essentially, what this does is it prevents any smoke coming from the incident barrel to the non-incident barrel. All right. Electrical systems and illumination considerations. One of the big aspects we're looking at is the upgraded electrical distribution systems. We have to power a lot of the new life safety and fire protection systems. And again, these systems have definitely increased electrical loads required to be able to power some of these systems. We'll also have one utility service entrance, so only one utility service that's going to be feeding into the tunnel ancillary building that is going to be placed at the district, at a portion of the District 3 maintenance facility location at that area. And we will also have an emergency diesel powered generator to power all emergency electrical loads as well. So basically, if there is a situation where there's a power outage, you still have an emergency generator. That emergency generator will be sized so it can power all of the emergency systems, emergency lighting, emergency ventilation, everything else. All right. Also, all life safety and fire protection conduits will be embedded in the concrete or have a 2-hour fire rating. Again, we'll show you when we show you the proposed cross-section, we show you all number of conduits for both electrical systems as well as communication that we're going to require for the new tunnel. The illumination includes new roadway lighting at approaches with LED fixtures. All circuits will have a 2-hour rating, so even the circuits within the lights, those will also be fire rated as well for a 2-hour fire rating. We'll also be providing new evacuee and wayfinding lighting. So again, we want to make sure the fact is we're directing people to egress locations, either at the portals or at the cross passage during an incident. So what's some of the other tunnel improvements? Well, first, as Tracy mentioned, we will be addressing the tunnel liner rehabilitation, which will include removal and replacement of all deteriorated concrete with high performance concrete. That also includes corrosion inhibitors to extend the service life. Again, one of the things we're looking at, make sure we extend the service life of this concrete. The vertical clearance envelope will be maximized to accommodate the new jet fans by lowering the roadway profile with a new full depth roadway repavement. So we're going to be replacing the roadway. The existing roadway hasn't been replaced since the tunnel was constructed. So when we do replace it, we're going to be lowering the roadway as much as possible to increase the vertical clearance, at least maximize the vertical clearance from the roadway surface to the new jet fans. Lanes will be widened to 12 feet. We'll be, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be providing new fire hydrants at the incident command staging areas. We're providing the new fiber optic linear heat detection systems verified by the CCTV camera system. And we're providing the new ventilation fans. We'll also be replacing the existing drainage system with a non-combustible drainage system as per NFPA 502 requirements. So again, want to make sure the fact is the drainage system has to be a material that is not going to have non-combustible in case there's any kind of flammable liquid spills within that system. The existing concrete curbs will also be replaced with precast concrete barriers. We'll also have a new hydrocarbon detection system within that new drainage system that will be able to detect for flammable liquid spills, and new electrical and communication conduits as well. Okay, so this is the existing cross section here and the proposed cross section here. As you can see, this is the existing curbs. The existing has 11-foot 6-inch travel lanes from curb to curb. The proposed, we're looking at 12-foot lanes. The existing, you have the concrete curbs here. On the proposed, you do have the precast concrete barriers. All right. We're also looking at the installation of a lot of our fire protection systems that are being presently proposed on the walls, sensors, junction boxes, standpipes, or whatever other fire protection equipment we're proposing to bring into final design, and the new lighting, essentially the lighting system. And here, again, is those ventilation fans that are placed above the traffic envelope, again, with a modified cross-section that handles the support locations for both. Okay, note that the vertical clearance envelope is reduced. It is reduced a little bit from the existing, but we will be looking at options and we're evaluating options both now and in the final design phase to try to increase that vertical clearance envelope as much as possible. So there's things that we're looking at as far as some of the support locations and everything else. And the hydrodynamic separator. This is going to be part of the drainage system, part of the new drainage system. What it does is captures spilled liquids, but allows water in the drainage system to continue to flow. We'll also have a hydrocarbon detection system that notifies those overseeing the tunnel operations of an active spill that includes flammable liquids. So essentially, the idea is you want to try to the drainage system is designed within the tunnel so that you can separate out if there's any spills. You want to get rid of that and know where those are so you can control that going forward. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Tracy. Tracy?
Thank you very much, Mike. All right, Mike already covered the proposed work on the tunnel liner. We're proposing to replace the surface concrete to a depth of 4 inches at a minimum in both tunnel barrels. And then full depth reconstruction is proposed on the tunnel liner at the areas where the jet fans are to be anchored to the ceiling. Repairs to the central shaft concrete are also proposed as part of this project. And we're looking at rehabilitating the ventilation building with in-kind materials. So the work proposed of the ventilation building, you can see in the photo here on the right, there are repairs proposed to deteriorated concrete and steel elements, repointing of the stone masonry, and removal of the graffiti. There are 2 bridges within the project limits, bridges 774A and 774B. They carry Route 15 over Wintergreen Avenue. And we're proposing to do preservation work on these 2 bridges as part of the project. So that work includes concrete deck patching, new waterproofing membrane, and a new bituminous overlay, bridge repairs, or bridge rail repairs and upgrades, concrete repairs on the underside of the arch, and any other miscellaneous repairs. To perform the work on the top of deck, we're anticipating temporary off-peak lane closures on Route 15. And then we anticipate that there might be a need for a lane closure on Wintergreen Ave and alternating one-way traffic pattern in order to perform repairs on the underside of the arches. So most of the work that's proposed under this project can be performed within the existing highway right-of-way, but there are a few right-of-way impacts that we are anticipating. For one, there is a temporary construction access road that's proposed on top of the ridge on Connecticut DEP property, and we'll need a temporary construction easement to build that. This access road is proposed to go from Baldwin Drive to the ventilation building and will provide a path for construction equipment to get up there, deliver materials, and perform the repairs. Then at the north end of the tunnel, we're proposing temporary construction easements on the CT Deep property and this green property that's owned by the city of New Haven. These temporary construction easements are needed to gain access to the face of the tunnel so that we can do repairs on the elevation. And then also on those two properties, we're proposing permanent drainage rights of way. This allows us to install new catch basins and also maintain them in the future. And then we have another drainage right of way that's proposed on CT Deep property at the southwest corner of the tunnel. Again, this is to install a new catch basin and maintain it in the future. At this point, I'll turn it over to Kathleen Erickson from our Office of Rights of Way, and she'll describe the right of way process.
Thank you, Tracy. So again, my name is Kathleen Erickson, and I'm a project coordinator with the department's Division of Rights of Way. Our office is responsible for acquiring property rights that are needed for transportation projects all throughout the state. So I'll be giving you a brief overview of what the acquisition process looks like. Before I get further into that, though, I do want to mention that the property impacts for this project are still being finalized, so that could change as the design progresses. Also, any property rights that are acquired are done so in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes, Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E, as well as the Uniform Act. So the right-of-way acquisition process begins once the project reaches a development milestone and all of the property impacts have been determined. At that point, each affected property owner will receive from our office a formal letter of intent to acquire, as well as a property map depicting the exact property rights to be acquired. You can see on the screen just a sample of what the property maps look like. Next, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights, which will be used to create an offer of just compensation. The property owner will receive the offer in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with them to discuss the project, their specific property impacts, and the offer itself. The property owner will have a reasonable amount of time to consider the state's offer and to enter into negotiations, and then once an agreement has been reached, the department will prepare all the necessary documentation in order to record the deed and the property map on the town land records. Now, if an agreement cannot be reached in order to maintain the project schedule, the department may acquire necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. If that were to happen, the state would file a notice of condemnation with the Superior Court, along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner would then have 6 months to file an appeal if they felt the state's offer was inadequate. It is important to note, though, the property owner can withdraw the money that's deposited in the court at any time. The state will also only be acquiring property rights that are necessary for the project, so we'll never be going beyond that. But if there are any questions regarding the right-of-way acquisition process, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'll turn it back over to Tracy to continue on.
Thank you, Kathleen. So as we've mentioned throughout the presentation today, there are significant environmental resources within the project limits. Section 4F coordination is needed due to the anticipated temporary impacts to the West Rock Ridge Park during construction, including that temporary access road, and the use of Baldwin Drive periodically to get construction equipment up to the access road and the ventilation building. Section 106 processing is also required because, as Kevin mentioned, the Heroes Tunnel is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, and also portions of the West Rock Ridge has been identified as archaeologically sensitive. The field archaeological surveys have been performed already, and a supplemental field survey is anticipated to be done this summer 2026, to see if any artifacts are found. It's the department's intent to advance a programmatic agreement to advance the Section 106 so we can continue with the final design while we wait for the archaeological survey to be completed. No impacts to wetlands or watercourses are anticipated with this project. However, we do anticipate that we'll need to prepare a stormwater general permit and also do a flood management certification. As for utility impacts, we're working with United Illuminating to provide electrical service to the new tunnel ancillary building that's proposed on the District 3 construction property. And then we're also working with the Regional Water Authority to provide a connection to the new proposed hydrants that are to be placed at the ends of the tunnel that will be used for emergency response in the future. So right now, we're in the preliminary design phase of the project. And based on the current project schedule, assuming that we get all permit approvals in time and right-of-way acquisitions in time, we anticipate that construction will start in spring 2028 and then be completed by the end of 2030. And throughout this process, we will continue to keep the public involved. We'll have our website available and you can get periodic updates. The preliminary construction cost estimate at this time is $174.9 million. And we plan on using 80% federal funds and 20% state funds to cover that. So the next steps for this project. The public comment period ends on January 28th. So again, we invite you to continue to send us comments and questions after this meeting. And then there's some other steps, but we're looking to complete the preliminary design phase by mid-February. And then after that, we'll proceed into the final design phase with the anticipated completion of design in fall 2027. And again, at this time, we anticipate that construction will start in spring 2028. So again, this slide just kind of reinforces the different ways that you can reach out to us. The project website can be found at portal.ct.gov/heroestunnel. On there, after this meeting, we'll have the presentation posted, the meeting minutes, as well as the recording of tonight's presentation. You can also reach out to us by email at heroestunnel@ct.gov. You can send us a letter with your questions or comments. Address it to the CT DOT headquarters, attention Tracy Bray, at 2800 Berlin Turnpike, Newington, Connecticut, 06111. Or you can call us at 860-594-2020. And again, leave a voicemail referring to the Heroes Tunnel project. And for those of you that can see it, you can also use this QR code to access it. And also we have Heroes Tunnel information being posted on social media, on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. And you can also sign up for email updates on our project website. All right, so we've gotten to the end of the presentation. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight and listening to our presentation. Again, we want this to be a productive meeting. So we ask that those of you that are in the room and have questions, please come up and I guess you can form a line over here and we'll hand you the microphone one at a time and go through your questions and comments. And then once we get through any questions and comments from those in the audience here, we'll move on to those questions that we've received from people on Zoom. So, and again, for everyone on Zoom, here are the different options where you can reach out to us. We'll be checking the email and the voicemail during this session, as well as the Q&A box. And I'll leave this up for those at home so that you can continue to ask questions. We'll open it up. Okay, yeah. So we will, if there are no questions here, then we can get started with those questions online.
So I am going to read the questions that we received from the virtual participants in full. So our first question says, bedrock core samples were collected along the Baldwin Drive switchbacks leading to ridge top during the period when a third barrel was being considered. Where are these core samples now, and what is intended disposition of them? West rock cores are of interest to geologists, potentially Yale Peabody Museum, or to science educators, including those who frequently give talks on natural history of the West Rock Ridge. Mike, you want to come on up and provide your comments?
So yeah, that's a very good question. Presently, when we completed that work, again, I'm going to also ask Mahmoud Khwaja, who is our tunnel engineer, who was responsible for the geotechnical investigation. But we worked closely with the Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation was very interested. Same thing as far as the preservation of those cores and those rock cores. Mahmoud can go into them very deep, not a typical geotechnical investigation. Some of these were over close to 200 feet in depth. Presently, I believe they are stored at the CT-DOT Colchester Maintenance and Soils Laboratory Facility, the new facility right off of Route 2, Route 11 in Colchester. And again, there's also, I want to have Mahmoud go into some of the issues associated, or maybe description of what those cores look like and some of the aspects of the course. Mahmoud?
Yes, thanks, Mike. I don't think we'll go into the description of that course, but I think the question relates to what's going to be the disposition of the course. Given the direction of this project, it's a rehabilitation project. At present, we do not see any future need for those cores, but I would expect that we can have a discussion with Connecticut DOT to see how they would like to handle this. But at some point, if they're not required, then we could potentially consider donating them. But at present, we would like to keep them in case directions change or some other needs arise.
Our second question says, is the pressurization of the air ventilation shafts at the central crossover space going to be activated only during emergencies, or is that an overall change to the ventilation system? Mike, do you want to provide a response? Sure.
Yeah, so in discussion with our HVAC engineers as well as our fire protection engineers, we would imagine some level of pressurization to the new tunnel, center tunnel spaces will be required, will be active at all times. So there'd be some minor level of pressurization so that, again, preventing any of the exhaust coming in there. But during an incident, higher ventilation rates would likely be required during an incident. So you'd actually increase that level of ventilation during an incident to really make sure the fact that you're not getting any intrusion of the smoke within those spaces. So again, most likely at all times, but really would be mostly active during an incident. Again, that's to be controlled by those monitoring and overseeing the tunnel during an incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our third question from virtual participants is the CDM Smith team taking the design through final design? How will the project be procured, design, bid, built?
Thank you. Yes, CDM Smith will be continuing through the final design phase. As part of the preliminary design, we are reviewing different delivery options. That's one of those other tasks that we need to complete the preliminary design phase. The current plan is to deliver as design, bid, build. However, we are evaluating a construction manager at risk option, which would bring the contractor on earlier in design and allow the risk to be shared by the owner, CT-DOT, and the contractor. Thank you, Tracy.
Our next question reads, I live on Wedgewood Drive in Woodbridge. Will I hear construction noise during nighttime construction, especially in the summer with open windows? This one goes to you as well.
Yes, we often practice standard best management practices for mitigating noise during construction. There are certain decibel levels that are specified in our project's special provisions that limit the excessive noise activities during daytime hours. Yeah, yes, please.
Another thing that we did look at as far as when we looked at construction procedures, as far as the tunnel is concerned, and one of the main aspects of the removing of the existing concrete, we are looking at utilizing robotic hydro demolition. And one of the things that you do have an advantage over hydro demolition with high pressurized water jets. The idea there is you're not jackhammering out a lot of the concrete. So again, it is an operation that does have a lot less dust, a lot less issues. You can recycle the water, reuse the water, remove and then while you're recycling the water, you also remove and able to collect the concrete, but also as far as noise is concerned, it does potentially have a little bit less noise associated with that than traditional jackhammering operation. So those are the kind of things we will be taking into account when we look at our proposals. And like Tracy said, there are other requirements that the contractor also needs to follow.
Thank you, Mike and Tracy. Our next question reads, how are you going to handle the 14-foot high plus 18-wheelers who are going to try to go through? I've followed up on northbound for over 40 years. Mike? Thank you.
Well, what we're proposing is advanced overheight detection systems that are presently being proposed, which will catch vehicles from all possible entrances which might enter the tunnel. We're also working with the department to use overheight detection systems which have been tested by them and by the department and work with other traffic systems. During final design, the exact procedure will be established and but it will include lights, notification to other drivers, and contacting emergency services automatically if a truck is detected. So we're looking, this is one of our concerns as well. So we are looking at all measures to make sure the fact is we are restricting overheight vehicles from entering the tunnel, and we're looking at all possible ways to do that. And Bob?
Thank you, Michael. I just want to add on, we are also working with our subject matter expert from Federal Highway Administration and other state DOTs. As you know, it's not just a Connecticut's issue, right? But so we're working closely with other owners. And in addition to the detection system that Mike said, we will also look at other details. But again, it's going to be hashed out during the final design of the project. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Beth. Our next question reads, Baldwin Drive and Wintergreen entrance to the north and Ridgetop is seriously deteriorated, largely due to communications truck traffic up to the towers. Will the switchbacks receive needed and long overdue repaving as part of the proposed work? Tracy?
So we are in the process of coordinating with CTD as they own the park and Baldwin Drive is on their property. At this time, we're not proposing to repave those roadways, but we will look at the condition and the impacts associated with our construction activities and discuss further with DEEP if there is a need to repair any of these.
Thank you. Our next question, can you discuss in a little bit more detail why your shore drainage and stormwater runoff will have no impact on the West River or Wintergreen Brook, which ran at the base of the tunnel on either sides? John? Jonathan here is our lead highway engineer.
Sure, I can speak to that a little bit. The project will minimize the use of curbing so that rainwater may sheet flow off into the existing right-of-way. That way we're trying to keep as much water on site as we possibly can. We're also going to be proposing catch basins with deep sumps to improve water quality. Any stormwater that's collected within the tunnel drainage system will also pass through a hydrodynamic separator, which will capture oils and flammable liquids as noted. That's going to improve the quality of any water that makes its way down to the brook or the river itself. The project will be tapping into this state system that does discharge to these two locations, but we will not be impacting the brook or the West River directly. The system's outlets will be maintained as they are now. We've inspected them and they're in good condition, good operating condition. No impact. Yeah, like I said, the stormwater quality aspects that we're proposing is going to improve the conditions out there that are existing. But again, there should be no direct impacts to either of these.
Thank you, John. Our next question, will there be any contract or pre-qualification process? Director Tracy?
Sure. Yes, essentially. Yes, we do have a process. We look at the project scope, and there are different categories, and it selects the recommended category based on the bulk of the work that's proposed under the project, and then contractor must be pre-qualified for that. There's more information on CTDOT's website about that process.
Thank you, Tracy. Our next question, are there plans to repave or repair the section of Baldwin Drive after construction? Tracy?
Well, similar to one of the previous questions, right now there are no plans to repave or repair. It seems like some of that damage is due to other vehicles going up there, but again, we will be coordinating with CT Deep. Reiterate, not CTDOT vehicles going up there, but we will be coordinating with Deep to see what impacts we're proposing and if improvements are needed. Thanks.
Our next question, signage at Hamden for tunnel problems, flexible barriers to divide the lanes to prevent lane changes in the tunnel, overhead barrier before tunnel to prevent trucks from entering the tunnel. Mike?
As far as signage at Hamden, what we are proposing a new VMS, variable meshes signage in Hamden, and this is incorporated into the plans as far as our proposal, as far as the various VMS signage. As far as barriers in the tunnel for that or divide the lanes during construction within movable barriers. Problem is there is very limited space within the existing tunnels. Having the movable barriers there, and I'm assuming that's what you're indicating, having movable barriers that can be pushed to the side when you're not utilizing the bi-directional traffic. This is simply not enough room as far as the barrels are concerned. Again, to be able to do that. So right now we're not due to the limited width within the tunnel. We're hoping that the design speeds during those operations during construction will slow traffic down a little bit within the tunnel. Presently, any overheight rejection system is not currently included, but again, like we said, we are evaluating all methods and all possible issues associated with the overheight issue, and that's something that we'll be finalizing in the final design phase.
Thank you. Our next question, are there any plans to improve traffic on Route 69 in anticipation of this project? And if not, what are DOT/local officials going to do to help the impact of this project on local businesses. I'm going to let Carl Dusler come on up, who is our lead traffic engineer.
Route 69 O'Reilly Avenue will be modified as part of the Interchange 46 project, which includes Route 69 Raleigh as well as Pond Lily, but there are no changes to Raleigh Avenue as part of this project. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we're not detouring any traffic as part of this project onto Raleigh, so this project will not impact Raleigh in any negative way more than it is today.
Thank you, Carl. Our next question, will there be decorative lighting at arches/entrances? Gary, listen.
Currently, there is no plan for static lighting. So we understand this tunnel is historic in nature. We're gonna keep that just in the mindset that we're rehabbing the tunnel. It's we're gonna still have that arch there, but currently there is no plans for it.
Thank you, Deb. Our next question, during the nighttime crossovers in construction, where one barrel is utilized for NPT, does DOT foresee using a zipper barrier, segmental barrier, which can be deployed quickly for public safety and expediency?
Then the details of how to deploy crossovers, how to deploy those movable barriers, those zip barriers. I think we kind of answered that previously. We will, that's something we can take a look at. But right now, one of the concerns is the limited width, and be able to operate, have one of those, be able to function within the tunnel, especially during when you're during regular periods, off peak hours, when you have dual traffic in there. And as we indicated, presently curb to curb for the existing is 11 foot. You have basically 23 feet, and then if you put a 2-foot barrier there, you're definitely restricting the lane width as far as that's concerned. But it is something I would imagine that we could take a look at and finally decide.
Thank you, Brent. Our next question, can you discuss in a little more detail why you are short drainage and stormwater runoff will have no impact on the West River or Winter Brook, which ran at the base of the tunnel? What are the storm drainage measures being taken, and have they already been designed? Jonathan.
I think this is the same question, but I'm happy to answer again. The types of stormwater management measures that are being considered include deep sump catch basins. The work that we're proposing here on the north and south of the tunnel itself is not extensive work. We're really limiting the work to just matching into the existing conditions and providing a safe entrance in and out of the tunnel. So we're not impacting the drain system significantly outside of the tunnel itself. So like I said, installing deep sump catch basins, promoting curbless environment so that sheet flow into the wetland areas and swales that are already existing can be encouraged. And then, like I said, that hydrodynamic separator, that's the biggest selling point right now for me when it comes to improving stormwater that's discharging potentially to the river.
Thank you. Our next question, is it possible to do some minor widening within the tunnel to create a sidewalk for emergency egress? The tunnel does not appear to have sidewalks. Just a comment for the proposed graffiti removal from the tunnel ventilation shaft. I hope that DOT keeps that after, because the shaft is a popular target for graffiti.
Yeah, as far as, we did look into all possibilities as far as the, the widening is concerned. And we really, we're really kind of stuck with what we're looking at as far as the existing cross section. Again, we are minorly widening it as far as the taking out the existing curbing and putting the precast barriers. One of the things that we're looking at is we really can't create, we don't have enough space to create a 4-foot walkway, because that's the minimum requirements as far as NFPA 502 as an egress pathway. But as far as the NFPA 502 requirements, we can use the existing roadway as an egress pathway if we stop traffic in both barrels. That's what we're looking at. It's one of the reasons why we do have the traffic control measures that we're proposing. So the idea is this: even though we don't have the room for an actual emergency egress walkway, we're creating that condition with the roadway itself by stopping traffic at both entrances. As far as the graffiti removal, from the tunnel ventilation, I'm assuming you're saying the tunnel ventilation building at the top of the ridge. One of the things that the project is looking to do is utilizing that space. Again, we talked about the positive pressurization. So we will be rehabilitating that facility and with historical perspective. Again, we looked at all aspects associated with that. We even took a petrographic analysis of the existing mortar samples, making sure the fact is, that we have information so that the contractor can match those mortar samples as far as repointing the existing masonry, not only in the ventilation building, but also at the portal walls. And yes, we do think that once the department does redo that and rehabilitate that, and it's actively used for the ventilation purposes, so the department will have to access it every once in a while. It is something that I would imagine the department will keep up on as far as maintaining that facility, especially if it's been rehabilitated, and it is something that people who are utilizing the park who go by it, you see a nice rehabilitated facility that meets the old historical purposes. I would imagine that that's something the department will want to keep up on.
Mike. Our next question: the tunnel south face has bricks that were installed when one of the original stones broke during an inspection. Can those bricks be replaced with a stone that matches the original stones around it? Okay.
Yeah, so that's something we'll take a look at. I'm not personally familiar with the location of that, but we'll definitely consider that during final design. Thanks for the
our next question: Lincoln Tunnel, as an example, Lincoln Tunnel has flexible barriers between lanes to prevent lane changes. Tracy. Okay.
Thank you for the comment and suggestion. I think this is something else that we would consider during final design. This time we're not proposing anything like that. We'll assess if it's warranted to try to prevent any accidents within the tunnel.
And I believe that concludes our last question from those who are participating virtually. I would like to open up the floor here for those in person. If anybody has a question in the room that would like to come up, feel free to come on up to the podium. Yep. Head right back. Tracy?
Okay. Well, I think we can probably wrap up this meeting. I'd just like to thank you all again very much for coming out tonight on a Monday night to hear our presentation. and to talk with the team about the project, review the boards. Again, bring it back up. Please come by. You can take a photo, and please continue to send us emails or questions after this meeting. So again, we really appreciate your time and have a wonderful night.